Welcome everyone to episode 12 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I am here with Owen, and today we're going to be talking about two new movies, Scream 6 and 65 with Adam Driver. And then I'm going to do a little, at the end of the episode, I'm going to do a little reaction right after the Oscars and go over our predictions. And by the time the episode gets uploaded, hopefully everybody will have either seen the Oscars or seen the results of the Oscars at least. So we'll do a little chat about that. And yeah, just share the episode, like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And we can start by talking about Scream 6, because I think you and I both agree this is the movie we'd rather talk about. Um,
Yeah.
so we could start with ratings. I gave Scream 6 a 4 out of 5. Pretty high on my
Yeah,
end.
I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, which is
Very
which is a good Owen rating.
Yeah, no, I was very pleasantly surprised with it because I did give I think I have the fifth one at like a 2 star,
Yeah,
which is kind of what was interesting about this one is I said I saw some people online say like it's they like it feels like a different group made this movie, but it's
yeah,
not.
it's the same people.
Which
Yeah,
and I'm very happy that this happened because if I came out of six being like, dang, like this kind of isn't great. And it'd have been
yeah,
like, okay, but then like because like the public reception is five is pretty great, like it's pretty good. And if the public reception to six was great as well, and I was like, this kind of not great, I would have kind of been stuck with them, and it would have been sour for the rest of the franchise. But I'm way more excited about the future after six than I am after five.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, and you mentioned the public reaction to it. I mean, it's the second highest rated Scream movie in the franchise on Letterboxd, which I know is, I feel like Letterboxd has a thing with that happens a lot with that stuff, where it's like as soon as a movie comes out and it just gets like that initial spike, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then it always like kind of like as more people see it, it always kind of like declines a little bit and then gets to like what the real Letterboxd rating is. But I mean,
Yeah.
even if it declines a little, it's still probably going to end up being the second
High.
highest, no matter what, because
Yeah.
the other ones are kind of on the not the lower
So
end,
yeah,
but
I think two, four, and five are all at a 3.4.
yeah, something around
And
there.
then one is like a 4.1.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I kind of it's like a letterbox thing. I think it kind of you would look at I think it's like a Puss in Boots comparison here. All the other Screams came
that's
out
an interesting
way
one.
before Letterbox was popular. um
Yeah,
this new movie comes out, it's kind of been like people liked Scream 5, but it was like we want a really great Scream movie. Everyone wants a really great Scream movie. So this movie is really good and people are rating it highly because they're excited because the franchise that they love dropped a great property. I think it's very good. I think a couple of the other sequels are better. I think it's a little messy. We can get more into that later, but I think people are excited and rightfully so, but like the rating is a little bit of it. Like you look at the rating and it's automatically you're like that's an overreaction. I think people are just excited, so it's just gonna be like that. But yeah, I mean, but it doesn't matter. It's a,
yeah. No, I
yeah,
agree.
at
There's
the end of the day, it
definitely
doesn't matter.
there's definitely like an initial
But that's
excitement.
kind
I
of what
mean,
I said that with Puss in Boots is it's like it kind of came out of nowhere and everyone was like, "Oh, I love the Shrek franchise. This is a good movie." So I'm gonna give it like a high rating because it's like it's like it kind of came at
yeah,
it's like been forever. I don't know. I want this franchise to be good thing. But it's
yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
No, yeah, I had a ton of fun with
Rate
it.
it
I mean,
high.
I'm definitely going. I feel similar to like the crowd of people who is just like very excited, because it's like, I mean, I went into this with high hopes because I saw that like the initial reactions and ratings and like people
Yeah,
talking about how good it was, and I was like, okay, like now I'm excited because I don't have to worry, because unlike you, actually kind of enjoyed Scream 5 like a good amount. I mean, I still
yeah,
think it's down there, like in terms of ranking the Scream movies, but that's not really saying much because I like all of the Scream
yeah. They're
movies.
all they're all good.
So yeah, like I knew that the returning characters were going to be people that I liked, and here, and like obviously there's a lot of stuff that I want to get into specifically, but just
Yeah,
like conceptually it seemed like a movie that was going to win me over, and yeah, it definitely did. Like I had a lot of fun. It seems like everybody there had a lot of fun. I'm already kind of
yeah,
like seeing a little bit of backlash on the internet post like opening weekend of people being like, "Oh, this movie's overrated," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I get it because of the whole letterbox
Yeah.
spike thing, but I'm like, it's still a good Scream movie, and
Yeah,
like,
no, it's the thing is it's like it's a tough like kind of thing to kind of gauge because the response has been so positive and people are I think the people I think people who are saying it's overrated are right, but it's more of the fact that I've seen many people be like, this is the best Scream movie. This is better than the original.
yeah,
And
which
like
is
a
obviously
ton of
absurd.
people are like putting it at 2, which
Yeah,
I think is kind of crazy. But like it's like I think the reaction everyone's like really excited about it, and it's very it's very reactionary reaction.
yeah,
Like people are just getting out of the movie. The movie came out like 3 days ago, so obviously anyone's ranking is just going to be reactionary. That's just how it's going to be.
yeah.
So it is a little overrated right now, but I think who cares? Like it's a good movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I do
yeah,
have it ranked like I do have it ranked pretty high among the franchise. I mean, it was really like for me at least, and obviously I'm gonna watch this movie again. Hopefully, I'm gonna see it in theaters again, but I'd have to find the
yeah.
time to do that. But yeah, if once I do watch it again and like kind of sit with it for a bit, maybe I will move Scream 2 past it again. But for now, I have it like just slightly above Scream 2 because yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite.
I
Like I had
like
a ton of fun with
Scream
this.
2 more. We can talk about that when we go more
Yeah,
into
we could.
section.
We'll do a little breakdown of our rankings at the end, but yeah, like just getting into specific stuff about the movie. I'm pretty much I like we'll start with likes because I really don't have too many dislikes, but obviously we
Yeah.
can cover that stuff
We're
towards
doing
the end. But
spoiler stuff here.
yeah, we can get into spoilers. Spoiler
Okay.
warning. We're gonna give spoilers about Scream 6.
Okay,
If
okay,
you have
okay.
not watched the movie and you don't want to know what the reveal is, you don't want to know who the killers are, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Do not
probably don't
listen.
watch
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
because we will mention all of that stuff for sure.
Yep.
Um, just to start, I think a logical place to start would be the opening of the movie, which is one of my
Yep.
favorites in the franchise. I think it's really inventive because I think like one thing that I want to just talk about is like an overarching thing with the franchise, and it kind of connects to some of the negative responses that I've seen and maybe why I don't view the movie so negatively
Okay.
is I think now that we've had 6 Scream movies and they
Mhm.
kind of set up like the there's just certain expectations that you have going into a Scream movie of like this is going to happen and this is going to happen and like things have to go a certain way and
Mhm.
there's certain
Yep.
like things that they just have to check off and obviously they're going to twist on those things and like switch things up because like you have to keep it fresh and it's just a hard like I maybe I'm like just not too negative on the movie because I think like once you make 6 of those and you and everybody has this understanding of like what you have to do,
Yep.
then it's like it's not easy to keep things fresh, you know, at that point. Like it's not easy to like stop it
Yeah, I
from
mean,
stop people from
I think this movie does feel fresh.
yeah, exactly, and that's why I wanna start with the opening because I think the opening is, like, a very, like, fresh twist on the opening scenes because they
Yeah.
always you know, all the opening scenes are pretty unique as is,
Yeah,
but
the opening is definitely unique. I'm I don't know how to feel about it necessarily. I think I want to see it again in theaters cuz I think I like the opening. I'm not sure if I love it. It
yeah,
did feel like it is just kind of long. It felt
yeah,
long to me, which is like in its like nature because you know they just you know they kill someone and then they have this whole other kill. Like there's 2 kills, so
yeah, yeah,
it is
yeah,
kind of naturally longer. But I kind of felt in the theater like, oh, this is interesting, this is fun. But I was like, okay, when do we get to like the actual movie kind of thing? Because like
yeah,
it's like you know what it is, you know that it's the opening, so it's like I don't know. I was excited to kind of get to my characters again, but I did think it was an interesting, unique like spin on the Scream opening.
yeah.
Um, I'm not sure I like. I don't know if it's my favorite, like it's one of my favorite openings, but I
No, it's
did.
definitely not my I mean, Scream 2 is
I think Scream 2 is
unbeatable.
kind of unbeatable as well. I think
Yeah,
the first one's just so iconic.
yeah,
Um, it's better than the third opening.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, without a doubt, the 3rd one is definitely probably my least favorite, but,
yeah, it's probably better than
um,
the fifth
I
opening.
I also
So
like
yeah, I mean, it's like a middle of the road, but I think it is a good opening. I think it's a good opening. It's just not. I think I'm like a
yeah.
little. I don't know. I have to watch it again.
I think it's like I think where I get mixed about it is weirdly enough, it was kind of like I don't know if you felt this way, but it was kind of like I'm not saying it's not fresh. I do think it's a fresh take, but it was like almost kind of exactly how I expected it to go. Like as it was unwinding, I was like, so they're gonna show us the killer, and then the killer's gonna get killed by somebody else. And like I kind of just like knew that was
Yeah.
happening as it happened, like before it happened, even really.
Well, when he
And
takes off, especially when he takes off his mask, you're like, oh, okay, so it's you're this guy's
yeah,
not
so this guy's not the actor.
because
Yeah,
because if
exactly.
yeah, you're not gonna have the whole movie knowing who the guy is. Like that's just
And you know what's funny is when we were when we were talking about the movie before you and I saw it, we were looking at the cast list and
yeah,
mentioning who was going to be the opening kill, and we actually guessed the two actors correctly.
yeah.
So that yeah, that's interesting. But
Well, yeah, it was like I don't know. I think yeah, I don't know. It made more sense, but
yeah, no,
I think it's fun.
I specifically wanted to mention about the opening the scene when he opens the fridge is like
Mhm.
just I think it kind of sets the tone for a movie that is definitely like, I guess, gorier than some of the previous Scream movies. I mean, they're all pretty like messy and bloody and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But there were a couple moments in this movie that definitely pushed the limits, at least compared to previous movies. And I think that that opening scene kind of like set that tone because when he opens the fridge, this body is just like completely mutilated. Like it is just absolutely
yeah.
disgusting. So yeah, I really like that part. And then there was I don't know if you remember the exact words that they what was like the quote at the end of the opening before the title because it
Uh,
was something about like fuck this franchise or something
no,
like
something
that.
about yeah, something like fuck movies or
And
something.
yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
I
no,
thought it was very funny in the
I
moment.
forget what he exactly says, but that's a good movie. There's a lot of good like
Yeah.
one-liners kind of sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, I dug this opening a lot. I mean, it was just kind of like like I said, I went into the movie with like expecting to have fun, like expecting to have a good time, and then like as soon as the opening happened, I was like, okay, like now I'm in for a treat. Like that was like that set the tone that I needed.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I think the one of the things that I want to talk about the most is the characters specifically
Mhm.
because I mean I could get into this stuff when we talk about our rankings and this is kind of like a common pattern with how I rank the Scream movies really, but I do think that the likability of the characters and like just how fun the characters are is like kind of in line with how much I like each of the movies because I think that's like a
Yeah,
major
yeah.
part
I mean,
of what
they're
makes
they're
the
big
movies
character
appealing.
movies, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a
It
really part of what makes the movies appealing is like these just like very fun characters, and we can get into all the specific characters, but obviously I already mentioned to you my favorite is definitely Mason Gooding's character, Chad. I think he is just like he's so
yeah.
likable in this movie.
I
Like,
think well, I'll kinda go into this with him then I think they did a great job of making the characters in 5 a lot better in 6. I think
yeah,
if they kind of had this issue in 5 where there were so many new characters
yeah.
and not a lot of them were great. And it was like it was and I think the fact that it was funny, I saw a tweet, there was like the main actress finally got acting classes in the sixth in the middle of the sixth movie. And I think yeah, I just think the people that they kept from 5 are way like they I don't know, whatever they did in the writing or they do I don't know, acting classes or whatever they did.
Yeah.
But I think the upgrade from 5 to 6, I went from like I don't care about any of these characters to like, oh, I like these people.
Well,
And
I did like the killer in 5, the girlfriend.
Amber,
Yeah, is that her name, Amber?
yeah,
I
Mikey
liked
Madison's
her.
character.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I thought she was pretty
I
good.
think she's fun. I think Jack Quaid is whatever. I think he's
Yeah,
one of the worst killers. Like
he's kinda boring. Um,
um,
which is
which is
another thing
I
to
guess that
mention because they kind of bring him back in this
what
movie a
so
little
I yeah,
bit.
so it was like
Um,
it kind of goes on to the like the elevation of 5 because it's almost like I haven't rewatched 5 since I've seen 6, but it's almost like it's not a better movie, but I think retroactively it makes it better. Like I don't know, the characters in 5 are better because of 6. Even
Yeah,
if they're
no,
dead,
I
even if
agree.
they're dead. Um,
I agree.
which is like that makes me more excited for the franchise because if you start with 5 and then like that's their starting point because they're building off of 5, especially with how they treated 6 and like the killers are related to Richie, Jack Quaid's character. Like
Yeah.
they're building off 5. Like 5 is like this the point where everything is leading up. 5 is the Scream 1 of this kind of era.
Yeah.
So they have to make that stuff better in the second movies, or like if they continue just to dud dud dud, it's I don't
Yeah.
know, it's gonna be bad.
And it's a good thing you mentioned that 5 is like kind of like the Scream 1 now because
Yep.
that's kind of what I think they did a pretty good job in this movie in Scream 6 of setting up that little running joke they did with like the whole like core 4 thing. I
Mhm.
think is kind of like them. I mean, it's like cute and silly in the moment, but I think it's also just like getting us connected to them because it's like they're letting us know that it's like now that that core 4 survives and now they've been through 2 movies together, and obviously this is a movie where we're kind of going away from the main 3 characters of the first 4 movies.
Yep.
Like this is pretty much like cementing like these are the characters that for at least the time being, however many movies we're going to get of them, are going to be like the main group that will probably survive every movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't trust like at least 3 of those dudes. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah.
because Chad's ass got stabbed way too many times. Like he
Yeah.
gotta be. I feel like he up to something. I feel like Sam could switch any moment now and kill someone. And
Yeah, of
Mindy,
course.
Mindy always knows too much, so I don't know about her.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I trust Mindy because
Nah,
I do
Mindy
like
could
Mindy's
be
little
Mindy could be
Mindy's
evil any
little
moment.
I like her running joke of like how 2 movies in a row now she's kind of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the film nerd of these movies, but she always fucks up the prediction of like who the killer's gonna be,
Well,
which
she
I
knew
think
it.
is
This,
like
which
really
yeah, this movie felt like it was almost like, okay, we're gonna point out that it's gonna be so obvious at times that it's like, oh, it can't be thing because they
Yeah.
call Ethan like Ghostface like to his face,
Yeah.
which I think it was funny. But yeah, she does. I mean, she does call that one out, but she doesn't call some of the other stuff out. Um,
Yeah, no, I don't know, but I think it's good, like I'm a fan of her character as well. Obviously, I mean, I'm really like there's not really any, especially now in the sixth movie, because I think something we're gonna talk about a little bit when we get to dislikes is Sam's character, but even then, like I think she's significantly more
she's
likable in
better.
this movie
She's
than she
better.
was in the last
Yeah.
movie. I just feel like everybody has a lot of like appeal in this movie. And again, like I'm mentioning that the characters are likable. And I think there's also just like kind of like a level of like heart in this movie that was missing from the fifth one. I feel like now that we kind of have had these characters for the second movie now, instead of it just being our first time meeting them, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean,
like
we've just
there's a
spent
lot
more
of like
time with
kind
these,
of like
yeah, and they've
high
grown and
emotional, I mean, I mentioned this in my review, but they're like high emotional moments, not in like the like you know you're gonna cry over it kind of emotion, but like the kind of like endearing, like you actually feel kind of like connected to these characters kind of emotion, because even like even the relationship between Jenna Ortega's character and Mason Gooding's character,
yep.
like that little love story that they have this movie is like genuinely like
Yeah,
kind of really
Chad up to
nice.
no good.
Like,
I'm gonna be honest. Chad's an evil man.
no, I don't think so. Stop.
Chad
Don't
and
say that
Mindy,
about
Ghostface, and like
no.
they've been
If
running it.
if
They've
they
been
do that, that would actually ruin
yeah.
the movies for me. I'm not
Next
gonna
movie
lie.
is Chad, Mindy, and Stu, and they've been running it.
No.
They've been running it. They're
Do you think that
evil.
like little even like the even like the little scene where pretty much you think at least that he's supposed to be dead.
They stab him like
And
70
yeah, no, they
times.
stab him like not like a lot, like a whole lot.
That's why
But
they weren't
even
real
that
stabs.
scene,
Fake
yeah,
blood.
no, I come on.
He's
But
evil.
that scene I think is like that little. look between the two of them. Like I do think that they have good chemistry. I do think there's
Yeah.
like something there. And I think like that kind of runs throughout this whole movie that makes all of the characters kind of likable because they do all kind of have like this like good little chemistry with each other. And I think the other thing is that like you mentioned he got stabbed 70 times and like yeah, it's bad. Like it's hard to believe, but at the same time, I do think that the movies in a way have like the franchise, I mean, in a way has kind of set that up a little bit. I think that there's like
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
there's
necessarily.
like
I think
elevated moments in the franchise where
I'm not really mad that he got stabbed 70 times and lived. I think it's more the fact that it happened to everyone in this movie. I think there's about 4 characters that were like, "Oh, they're dead." And then at the end of the movie they're like, "The hospital is called and they're gonna make it." And it's
yeah.
and it's like it's cool when like two people, I don't know. It just felt like this movie I needed at least one death. I needed to leave
Yeah,
here.
I
I
thought
needed to.
Gail would be dead for sure.
I think Gale is like if they were going to kill everyone and we wanted to keep on to their characters, I think Gale is a good one to let go of at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the reason why in their heads at least, and obviously like I have no idea, but
yeah,
I'm just guessing their thought process was we killed Dewey in the last movie. We don't have Sydney in this
yeah,
movie. Are
no,
we going to bring back the only other legacy character to kill her in this movie too? Because then it's going to
yeah.
become like a
That's
repetitive
what
thing.
it's. I think they get in this weird corner where they're too attached to everyone and they
Yeah.
don't get rid of anyone. And I think that's just kind of that's how Scream goes. Is someone's got to go. I think. I mean, you one, you lose a ton of people. You two, you lose Randy. Yeah. I mean, you just keep lose. You lose people on the way. That's just how it kind of goes.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You lose Dewey
That's what
last time.
that's
I
kind of
just felt like you needed to lose someone here, especially with how brutal Ghostface was in this one.
yeah.
Ghostface is so brutal in this one, and for everyone to like be on the verge of death and survive the last minute feels kind of cheap. Um, because I don't know it.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
I see where you're coming from because I think that there's like it has to happen, but at the same time,
because
I think it's just like kind of what I was saying about having to like force yourself to keep it fresh is like
yeah,
there's just like I think in their eyes, like in the eyes of the creators, right? It's you're kind of faced with like an impossible task almost because
yeah.
it's like I'm saying, like if you kill Gale, then it's like, oh, that's too predictable. Like you just brought back the other legacy character to kill her. But then it's like if you don't kill Gale, then people are going to
Well,
complain
yeah,
anyway. And it's like
I
I
think
think there's a
that's
lot of decisions like that
yeah.
throughout these movies that like once you've gotten to the sixth one, it's like, do we repeat something that has happened in a previous movie? Or do we not repeat it? But then it's like, how many different things
I
can we
think
add
that was
to
a tough
stray
thing
from it?
with Kirby because it was like, okay, you
Yeah,
bring Kirby back in this movie, um, she kind of has to just be there and live and not anything else happen to her because like,
yeah,
oh, you just brought Kirby back to kill her, or you like bringing Kirby back to be Ghostface would have been dumb. Bringing her back just to kill her would have been dumb. So she
yeah,
just kind of had to be there. And I think yeah, killing Gale probably not the best decision. I feel like one of Mindy and Chad kind of had to die there.
yeah,
Even though it's like everyone loves them, it's kind of like someone has to die. I feel like next movie you kind of have to kill some people. Like next movie might have to
yeah.
just be a killing spree, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, I'm curious where they would go because I think
because
there's no way.
if they go, I don't know how many they're gonna make. I know Seven is greenlit. The guy, the directors, the Radio Silence were like, yeah, we'll direct if we'll direct Scream movies the rest of our lives, or we'll watch Scream movies for the rest of our lives, even if we're not a part of them. So I feel like we will get a lot more. It's just a matter of when will this kind of
Yeah,
group end their kind of journey. Uh,
yeah. And it's like when you think about it in from that perspective, it's I mean, if it's going to follow the formula of the first four movies at least, then you would imagine this core four kind of sticks through four movies. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of them die in the next movie. I don't think that's too shocking. Or if somehow they all survive the third of this
yeah, yeah,
franchise at least. I think it wouldn't hurt because there's three main characters that the four first movies revolve around. So now that you add four, I wouldn't be surprised if like the I guess it would be the eighth installment in the franchise or the fourth of this perspective world. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they kill off more than one of them in that movie. Like and then that one's a big
Yeah.
one. I don't know. Whatever
Well,
they
yeah.
do, I
So
feel like it's gonna be a challenge regardless. Like it's just like the dude doing it is gonna have to like you have to constantly kind of up the stakes while also staying grounded to like what all of the Scream movies are. Like you don't want to go too above and beyond because then it just kind of ruins like the appeal of them. And it's like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
It's a tough challenge regardless. But I yeah, I just like these characters, so I don't
Yeah, no,
really I
I
don't know.
like them. It's yeah, it's a weird thing because like I like them. It's just I don't know. There was something. It's like I didn't want. It's like I didn't want Randy to die in Scream 2, but I
Yeah,
think it kind of
exactly.
just needed to happen, almost thing.
Yeah.
So it's like it's I don't know. It's a weird.
No, yeah, I get what you mean.
But
I
yeah,
wouldn't
I
be
think it's almost like I think it's yeah. I don't know. I like it. They're talking about Scream 2 though. This movie is like kind of the mirror of Scream 2, and I think
yeah.
it's kind of interesting because I think it'll be interesting what they do for the next one if they continue to do that kind of mirror thing because one is like no one Scream
Yeah.
2022 or Scream 5 is a mirror of Scream 1.
Yeah, and then
And
this
then
one's like the same thing with like going to college that Scream
yeah,
2
he's going to
has. So
college, and then also the ghost faces themselves are the parents, or the parent is one of the ghost faces of the
yeah.
previous ghost face, which I mean, you see that, and it's just obviously Scream 2 there. And they end in the theater and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
exactly.
So
There's a
there's
lot of
it
parallels,
is it
yeah.
is it is Scream 2 again, which I love because I love Scream 2.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's three ghost faces this time. What were your thoughts about all three of them?
I mean, I really, really like, Leanna Liberato's character,
Yeah, I loved her. She was
because she's
great.
I mean, you
She
already
was
know
so
that I
funny.
like her
She was
because
so funny.
she's in one of my favorite romances, so I'm a
What is
big
she in?
fan of her. She's in Stuck in Love,
Oh, okay.
so I'm a big fan of her already as is, but I think, like, she's similarly very charming in this movie, like, there's just, like she's just very likable. Her character is very fun in this movie, I think,
Yeah. No, I thought she
and
was great.
yeah,
She's not in it
I
that much because she dies like halfway
yeah,
through the movie.
technically,
But
yeah.
I think the moments that she in is she's really great.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think, and yeah, like you mentioned, like you don't really see her die. It's like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
off-screen
yeah.
death, which is very smart. Because I mean, I guess smart for me, probably dumb for some other people, but I am bad at catching things like that while I'm watching a
Yeah.
movie. I'm really bad at predicting stuff, so that like didn't even click in my head until after the movie was over. But yeah, I really liked her. I know you're a big fan of Jack
Yeah,
Champion.
no, I was like going to this movie, I'm like, I don't care what happens if Jack Champion is the ghost face, I will be like pleased. I think he's just a
Yeah,
fun actor. I loved him in Avatar 2. Just the fact
yeah,
that he's in Scream is fun as well. And I was like, it was like I either want him to survive and be in another Scream movie or be Ghostface. Because if he just dies, then it's like, okay, whatever. So it was so great because it was like he was in the whole movie and they were pointing at him being Ghostface the whole time. So it was like, okay, he's either going to like die in the last 10 minutes or he's gonna be Ghostface.
yeah,
Or like make it to the next movie. So I was like pumped. And then that reveal, I think he's really fun in the third act. My thing with the ghost, I think so. Um, Quinn and Ethan, I think are really fun. I think the cop, their dad,
yeah,
is kind
Dermot
of
Mulroney's character.
he's whatever.
Interesting, because I really liked him, actually.
So for me, it's like I think Quinn and Ethan are really fun, and I think the cop is like he's good. He's like I mean, it's not like a standout for me or anything, but I think it was more of like their motivation was kind of okay. Like I
Yeah,
that was the big thing for me. It was like it was like okay. Like,
yeah,
I,
it's not
it's not like
particularly, like, the most exciting of reveals.
yeah. I think it was like if I think the reveals were fun for me because I liked those two characters and those two actors, but it was like them as like written characters weren't like anything special.
Yeah. But I do think
Um,
it's interesting because you mention how it parallels the second
so yeah,
Scream,
with Scream
and they kind of
2,
do that with the reveal because it's like the family lineage
yeah.
kind of thing where it's like them getting revenge for someone in their
I
family
think why
dying.
2 works more or 2 works better is because you have Mrs. Loomis and you have Mickey, and they have
Yeah.
2 different motives, and Mrs. Loomis kills Mickey, and there's this whole there's like they're way more complex characters, and I think for Scream 6, you have the cop and you have the 2 kids, and it's like, okay, they all have the same kind of general basic motive of you killed our brother slash son, and we are going to continue his thing, and that's it. Where in Scream 2, it's like you ki- you killed my son, and then Mickey is just crazy and wants to go to trial, and he's gonna blame it on the movies. And there's this whole I don't know that it's more complex there, and
Yeah.
I think also Mrs. Loomis's character is a way better reveal because of how little she's in the movie.
Yeah.
I think Mrs. Loomis is a big reveal because she's playing Debbie Salt. She's like a reporter, and she's in the movie for like 5 minutes, maybe. You see her
Yeah.
come in and
Probably
out.
way less than that,
Yeah.
honestly.
You don't even think about her because
Yeah.
she's just a dumb, annoying character. And then she comes out, and it's Laurie Metcalf, and she has like these big eyes the whole time. And
Yeah.
I think she's one of the best like girls. I think she's really underrated. So I think comparing it to Scream 2, I think it's just kind of less complex and less interesting. But I still think I'm happy with the ghost faces we got because I think that they're fun. It's just they're
Yeah.
not as interesting as some
Yeah.
other
It's
kind.
like they're fun characters within the movie. They're just not fun once they're revealed to be the killers.
I mean, I think as killers they're fun. It's just that
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not.
yeah.
They're just when you. It's like
The context around it is
it's just
not.
a sucky like it's gonna be a thing when you have 6 movies. Is everything is a comparison thing. I just think
Yeah.
comparing them to other ghost faces in terms of like motivation and reveal, they're just on the lower end of that. I still think I really like Ethan and Quinn a lot just because I think they're fun. Like they're
Yeah.
charismatic and they have an interesting presence on screen. I just don't think they're the best written or revealed ghost faces.
Yeah. And I also think it's like I always think it's funny, I guess with both of these, but just like funny to think about it outside of the context of the movies. It's like, can you imagine that like this is how people react where it's like you're related to somebody who ends up being a serial killer and your immediate like kind of train of thought is like, well, maybe they were onto something.
Yeah,
Like maybe
yeah.
maybe they were right, and maybe now I have to avenge them and continue in
Um,
their path of serial killing.
yeah, no,
I just think it's
I
very
think it's
funny.
interesting. I also think when you compare it to, I heard some talk about this. When you compare to Mrs. Loomis and what is it? The cop's name? I forget the.
Maroney.
Yeah.
Well, that's the actor's name, but
So
the
when
guy's
you
name is Detective Bailey.
okay, so Bailey and Mrs. Loomis. So I think it's interesting because Mrs. Loomis kind of left Billy,
Mhm.
Mrs. Loomis was away from Billy, and then heard that he got killed, and he was this, and then Ben went to revenge him, which is way more like okay, that's interesting and complex, and it's just like, but it's different here because they were just like a family and like a normal
Yeah.
family, and Billy like killed some people. Oh, not Billy. Richie
Yeah.
went and killed some people, and they were like, "Oh, okay." He liked the. I think yeah. So I don't know. There's some differences, and I think I like the ghost faces. I just think they're just not. It's just comparing them to the other ones. They're not that great. Which
Yeah.
is kind of why I'm like, okay, this is a little like reactionary with the praise that it's getting, even though I'm like, yeah, I love this movie. I think the movie's really great, and it's like my second favorite movie of the year so far. I'm really excited for the rest of the franchise. It's just the fact that it's like, oh, this is the best Scream in the franchise. It's like it's just the
Yeah.
ghost faces kind of have to be the ghost faces have to be like some of the best. Like it's just as they're not like I think Jill is way better. I think obviously Billy and Stu are way better. I think
Yeah.
Mickey and Mrs. Loomis are better. It's just like I don't know.
I feel like the people also, and again, it's like I don't take it too seriously. Like I kind of really, you could rank these movies whichever way you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
And
I don't. I mean,
I
it's
wouldn't
like
like
rank them out
it
everyone. I'm
wouldn't
just saying
yeah, it
that
wouldn't bother me, but
it
it's like I do
I
I
feel
do
like
think people
everyone on Twitter, every ranking on Twitter, I'm like, it's like it's the second or like the first movie.
yeah.
I'm like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
No, it's high up there for a lot of people, and but that's the thing is like what I was gonna say is, and again, I get it. Like if someone has another opinion, but it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like I find it so hard to not rank the first Scream as the first one. Like
I
I think
the
people who can watch
yeah.
six and be like, "This is my favorite in the whole franchise," like, do you just not like see the magic of the
Yeah.
first Scream? Because it's
One,
like,
I think one is just so impressive, and I
yeah.
really doubt one will ever be reached again. I'd
Yeah,
hope I hope like they come out with 8 and it is like the best thing ever. It's just
yeah,
watching them all, there's just something, it's like almost one and the rest are like you have to kind of detach them because one is it's his own beast in its way. It's
yeah,
one like one is set the example for the rest to follow. Like it's not like these
yeah,
aren't going to be better. I think 4 is really great, but I think it's 1 is just so special.
yeah.
It's
That's what I'm
it's
saying. I don't know. I mean, it's fine, like, it's fine, but I just think
yeah,
it's crazy to see Scream 6, this new movie, the weekend that it comes out,
yeah,
and immediately determine that it's better than, in my opinion, my favorite horror movie ever, and just, like,
yeah, sure.
this monumental, like, classic horror movie that is like, amazing in every way. Like,
Yeah,
to
it's
just, like,
also
immediately move it past that is kind of
it
wild to
feels yeah,
me,
it
but
feels very reactionary to put a movie that came out 3 days ago, like, above a lot of them.
yeah. Yeah.
It feels like I don't I mean, I know it's like that's just how the internet kind of works and how Letterboxd is
Yeah.
positioned movie watching and stuff. Everything is very reactionary. You watch a movie, you give a rating, you rank it, you do all this. So it makes sense. It's just
And
like
I mean, I like for me, it's like the thing is, and I imagine it works this way for some other people, but it's like for me, it's kind of fresh because it's like I just rewatched all the Scream movies the week
yeah,
leading up to
yeah,
the new one, so it's really easy for me to compare them because it's like, yeah, it's a new movie, but at the same time, it's like I just watched all these movies around the same time anyway, so like I could pretty clearly
yeah, yeah.
separate my thoughts about them. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying. Like it is just like well, then that's why I'm saying, like, it's too new for me. I have it pretty high on my list right now, but it's too new for me to, like, say that it's, like, set in stone
Well,
there, like, I
no, no,
could
it's like
easily
to come out of
move it
come out
around.
of 6 and just say like, "Oh, this is the best Screen movie." Just you ultimately like it's just so reactionary
Yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Um,
Did you wanna talk about any, like, specifics as far as, like, scenes that are very, like, intense or, like, scary
yeah,
or whatever? Because I have a couple that I think are
I think there's
super
a lot of
cool.
great scenes. I think the ladder scene stands out.
Yeah, that's the one I was gonna mention
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
first.
yeah.
I mean, that
I
one
think
is
the ladder
awesome.
scene is so. What did you think
It's
about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's just so I think it does such a good job of like having all of these kind of moving parts in it, I guess, because it's
Mhm.
like
It's a good
you
set piece.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the idea of especially because you like I mean one it's obviously this the like the core of it is this relationship between her and her girlfriend, which is like making this whole scene very emotional. But then it's also like the fact that she has to do this while she's like injured and
Yep,
pretty
yep.
much like near death. So it's like already like the stakes are way too high because I probably realistically would shit my pants doing that if there was nothing wrong with
Yeah,
me
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
even if there wasn't a killer chasing me. Like if I just if you just told me I had to climb across that ladder with no stakes at all, I'd be like absolutely the fuck not. Um so the fact that she's like bleeding out and there's a killer literally like right behind her is just so intense and like I love this little like I love like the ladder pretty much just separating like they're in one window screaming trying to get her across and like the killer is fucking shaking the ladder which I think is so cool because the killer could have probably so easily like climbed 3 steps on the ladder and just like
Yeah.
stabbed her while
No,
she
I
was
think
on it but it's so much cooler to like shake the
it's
ladder and try
yeah,
to knock her
yeah.
off because
It's so like because Scream is so like there's so much comedy in Scream. And I think
yeah
it's such so Ghostface to kind of just shake it and play with it. Um,
Yeah, because it's like, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's like these always, like without a doubt, always the killers are people who really like take pride in what they're doing, like really
Yeah.
take pride in like because there's like obviously like you see these like there's in this movie as well there's killers recording like what they're doing like it's like you know what I mean it's like they want some sort of
Yeah.
glory like it's like an overarching thing that they like want to receive like praise they want like these movies made out of them and it's obviously this really good
Yeah.
critique of like the entire culture surrounding this stuff and like surrounding serial killers and stuff like that
Yeah.
and yeah,
That's
I
where
think
more it's like going kind of going back to the ghost faces themselves. I wish we had I wish like Jack Champion or or one of the other ones like had like another kind of motive as well,
yeah,
like something like that. Like the dad was like, oh, we gotta like avenge our son. He loved these movies. We got to continue his thing. But I wish Jack Champion there was like I don't know, there was like a third dimension to these characters, like these ghost faces,
yeah.
because
Because
I
it's like you see that Richie, right, from the fifth movie, like you see that he was kind of like this filmmaker, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they
Look, and then you wish that Jack Champion had a little bit of that maybe a little more like I don't know he looked after his brother and he had more of that in him. It just I just felt like that third act is a kind of little messy and it's like okay these are the siblings of the last guy that's it like it was just I wish there was a little more there on the bones but it's again that's just it's whatever.
yeah,
I think that whole ladder scene's like great. I think we didn't really touch on it yet, but the character of Danny is a big character there. It's Sam's like boyfriend, like mystery man kind of thing. He is
right,
like
right,
he's one of the big like red herrings of this movie, you could say.
yeah.
The actor is like in a lot of like TV shows where he's the villain, so I think it's like a natural kind of typecast for him to be
And it
a
is
ghost face here.
it's like an interesting kind of like, at least in the eyes of the viewer, I think, like an exercise in trust kind of, because it's like you
Yep.
don't know who the killers are yet. And obviously, like at this point, we could assume there's always going to be more than one of them. So it's like when you see them being chased
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's their only
He's not.
escape and you don't know
Yeah.
if he's the killer
Yeah.
yet, it's
Well,
like,
it's great.
are
Yeah.
they crossing this ladder just to go to another killer, like to just go to the other half of this duo? So I think that's a really interesting concept because in my, at least when I was watching it, like in my head, I was like, that's something that I'm
Yeah.
scared of, that they're just like
Yeah. I
going over
think
the
it's
other
interesting
killer.
because it's like he's such an obvious like ghost face. Like he's the boyfriend of the main character. He's like typecast as like a lot of villains in movies and stuff. And he's
Yeah,
just like a natural, like strong, like he has his presence on screen. So I think it's interesting because it's like you compare that to Jack Champion, who is another just like kind of obvious ghost face. There's a lot of like, oh, everyone's kind of obviously could be it. That it's like,
yeah,
oh, who is it? Like it's almost like it's they're not hiding it for anyone. Like anyone can kind of be Ghostface to the point of like no one is Ghostface.
yeah,
But I loved his character. I'm happy that he's alive because he's like the only like new character that is
yeah.
alive. But I think you mentioned it earlier because I talked to you about that. You were like, he'll probably just like be like not in the next movie. Like they'll be like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, they're just
yeah,
gonna get rid of this guy, aren't they? But
yeah,
I
I
don't know.
know.
I mean, maybe he'll be back, but I assume he's just
Yeah,
gonna be
no,
alive at the
I
time.
really hope that they bring him back because it's like he's the only like new. I mean, you could call Kirby because Kirby's brought back, but like I don't even know if Kirby will be in the next one. But I think he's a fun character. I like him as an actor. I think he's good in this movie. But it comes to the point of like we have too many characters now. You feel that at times. But yeah, I like him. I think he's fun.
Well, and I think the other thing that's like kind of smart about that is again, it could be seen as a negative to have too many characters, but at the same time, it's like he is kind of this expendable character.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
know. I
it's not
could
like
see him.
it's not like he's not interesting. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not like there's someone there and
I
they
think
develop
he's a
this
good
relationship.
character to have and bring back because I
Yeah,
think he's a great
because he
character
could
to
die.
kill. I
Yeah,
think he's a great
exactly,
character to kill because I
exactly.
think if you're gonna just get rid of him and then bring new characters in next movie and then just kill them, it's like okay. But I think you bring him back to the next movie, you get like you get little like you get some scenes with him and Sam, build their relationship a little, and then
Yeah,
kill him. I think
yeah.
because it kind of if you're it's
I mean, or even if you were gonna, I doubt they're gonna parallel the third movie, but like, because I don't know how long they plan on doing that whole thing for.
Yeah,
But in the third movie, the opening kill is somebody who was in the previous movie, so they could do something like that where they just kill him at the beginning. He could
yeah.
be the opening kill of the third
But that's
movie.
it could be a thing because
Yeah,
it could be interesting. You could have Sam starts with them. They I don't know, you probably have it not in New York anymore. They
yeah,
maybe it's a couple because they're filming it now, so it's probably like right after. I don't know where they would be, but say Sam gets the phone from Ghostface, and then Sam fights him off, but then he dies or something. You have something opening like that, and you lose him. But yeah, I think I think they should bring him back just for that. It is interesting because a lot of times when you have these love interests in this movie, they don't make it that far. But both
yeah,
Danny and now that Chad is the love interest of Tara, they're both alive now, which
yeah,
is I think that's what they kind of talk about a lot in the movie when they're talking about the satirical, like they're talking about the rules and stuff. They're talking about how now we're so far into the franchise that the rules are no longer rules. Like everything is
yeah.
kind of backwards in a way. So I think the love interest staying alive is almost the reverse of the rules almost.
Yeah, no, I see that. That's a good point. And the other scene, at least like the two big scenes I wanted to mention in terms of like just being
Yeah.
really cool were the ladder scene, of course, and then the Gale chase scene.
Okay.
Because that was just like so cool. I thought that the way that they used like this big like New York luxury
Yeah,
apartment.
yeah.
Like especially like the part where she runs out onto like her gigantic balcony and she's like she's being
Yeah,
chased
she's
and then
loaded.
she runs back in to shut the
Those book
door.
sales
Yeah,
are
I know.
amazing.
No, but they like, you know what I mean? It's like I thought that was really cool where she like runs outside and then she comes back in through another door and then she's kind of like, yeah, there's just like a lot. There's a lot of like small little moments in that scene where I'm like, this is really cool. Even like her like kind of like fumbling like the lock on like her gun or whatever.
Yeah.
I just yeah, there's a lot of like really good moments in that chase and like just really like I know it was in the trailer, but it like still kind of made me jump when it happened. Like when they toss her boyfriend at her like through the wall and
Yeah.
they break the thing. I was like, Jesus, like that it really like scared me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool scene. And I obviously it would have probably been a tiny bit cooler if they killed her just to like raise the stakes. But I don't know. At the same
Yeah. I
time,
almost feel
obviously,
like
you don't want to watch Gail die because she's
it's a
awesome.
weird scene to like. I think it's a good scene. I feel like it would be interesting for her to die. I feel like it would be a weird time right there for her to die.
Yeah,
Almost.
exactly. I don't
It's like
know.
I don't know. It's a weird. I think it's an interesting set piece. I think they like if they do the thing. It's like they do the thing. It's almost they beat it to death. It's like the she's dead but she's not dead thing. But I think that scene's fun.
Yeah,
There's also I think there's like this. I just wanted to bring this up. There's like this inclusion of this. I think it's Doctor Stone who is like Sam's therapist,
yeah,
and which is an interesting like character because you get like it's like one of the first scenes and you get Sam talking to the therapist and she opens up about like her feelings and the
yeah,
guy is like I can't see you anymore
yeah,
and then you later he dies and it's just an interesting it's like an interesting thing like thinking about like why they included this because it's just like another kill. But
yeah,
like, what are they kind of cooking? What are they building with this whole like Sam is like has like a
yeah.
vengeful kind of
Yeah,
evil side
and
of her.
that's something that I think, when we go over dislikes, one of the small things that I think we should, I mean, at least from my perspective, discuss, and I think you've kind of agreed. The last thing I wanna mention before we get there,
Yeah.
which I guess this is a good place to start because it toes the line. Because I think this is kind of a dislike for you, but a like for me.
Okay.
So it's a good place to transition. But I think that the New York City setting is like for me very effective. And I know you mentioned that you're not like totally in love with it because they could have
Um.
done more with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
well, it's because it's shot in Montreal.
yeah.
um, it's like I don't know. I think I almost sold it to myself less than the marketing itself. I was like, Scream in New York. I think it's
Yeah.
a fun like thing. It's like there's no like I don't know, you want to see them like just be in New York thing, like do I don't know, just like iconic New York set pieces. I
Yeah.
think yeah, it looks like they're in. I mean, it's like oh, they're in a city. It works as New York. I just like you're if you're in New York, like be like I don't know, there should be some like kind of monument that shows up in like one
Yeah,
scene.
to
Like I don't
mention
know,
that it's New York. I get what you mean.
but I think it's fine. I don't think it's necessarily a negative. I just think it's like I wish it was there was more because you're only gonna do Scream in New York probably once. Might as well do Scream in New York. That's kind of
Yeah.
the thing. It's like I wish there was more that was New York, but obviously if you're not shooting in New York, that's just not gonna happen. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the fact that it is in a city alone is a positive for me. I
Yeah,
just
that's what I was gonna say because I don't I get what you mean about like making it feel more New York, but I do
yeah,
think the setting is very interesting to me,
yeah,
just like just the idea of them being in a city because I think it creates one, it creates a lot of these like great set pieces. Like that ladder scene could not happen
yeah,
in in like a suburban neighborhood. So that's fun for just the fun of it. But I also just think it's like I think it creates like a lot of interesting moments because it puts them in a big city, but I don't think they need to like go to monuments or like big like public spaces too often because I think ultimately like these have always been kind of like small movies, you know what I mean? Like they're very like secluded and
yeah,
I think it's interesting how they use a city that in your head as you're watching you know is full of thousands and thousands and millions of people and make it feel small like within that city because you know that it's a city but you're watching all of these like more intimately close like small scenes of like oh it's just them between their apartments and everybody
yeah.
else in their apartments doesn't matter like it's just these two apartments that's all that's happening and it's like all these places that they go to or even like when they're at the party it's like yeah it's a party and there's people there but it's like but then they leave the party and it doesn't like feel that
Yeah.
grand. And I like that because I think they're
Well,
ultimately
so
like
yeah,
kind of small
they
movies.
do that, and then they also do this great thing where we didn't talk about the scene yet, but they on their interviews and stuff, they talk about how you're in New York and there's so many people in these streets and there's so many people on the trains and stuff, but no one cares about anyone else. So you
Yeah.
have this great scene where Mindy and Ethan are on the train and
Yeah.
they're apart from each other because Mindy's like, "You're the ghost face, I'm not messing
Yeah.
with you." And then Mindy gets stabbed, but no one around her notices her because they are in their own little bubbles.
Yeah.
And I almost like I think about it as like I wish they did kind of more with that because I think that concept is really interesting. It very much gives Scream 2 opening vibes
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they're in the movie theater and they all have the Ghostface masks, and Jada Pinkett Smith gets stabbed, and no one, everyone's like acting like it's a publicity stunt, or they're all excited, and no one really cares. And
Yeah.
I almost wish you had like a scene in like the streets where everyone had costumes on, and one of them's like dying, and everyone like no one like it's like almost Scream 2, but just in the street kind of opening. But I think that
Yeah.
you get that great moment in the train where Mindy is dying almost and no one cares. And I think that is the best use of New York in this movie is that train scene because it is the whole idea of there's so because you go from Woodsboro where there's one house and there's nobody for like a mile, and then you go to
New York.
New York where
Yeah.
everyone is here and nobody cares. It's
Yeah.
the total opposite of you have Scream 1 where you're at Casey Becker's house and you call the police, but they're not coming because it's going to take
Yeah.
forever. They're not going to get here in time. Until you go to 2 or not 2, you go to Scream 6 where they're like a foot away from you and they don't care or they don't even notice that you're in trouble there. Which I think is a great kind of way to add different elements to the franchise and make these kills and interactions feel fresh and new.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I'm in agreement as well that the train scene specifically is the best use of them being in a
Yeah.
city. Yeah, we could get into just like a couple dislikes. I don't know. I mean, maybe you have more than I do, but there's really not that much that I want to talk about. The only ones I really have, like that I wrote down at least, were on the one hand, which we've already covered, so we don't really need to go into
Yeah.
it. It's a little bit predictable, but at the same time, like I mentioned before, I don't really care that much about it because it's just
Yeah.
like we're 6 movies in. There's gonna be some things that like you kind of catch on to that like you're paying more attention to because you know how these movies work. It's like kind of a whatever complaint for me. And then the other one that I had, which is what we just glossed over before, is like Sam's kind of like not her character as a whole, nor her performance, but just the direction that they're taking her character in,
Yeah.
of making her this like pretty much just like psychotic killer. I don't know. It's just and specifically the way that they tie Billy into the whole mix and like have those little like scenes where he's talking to her. I just those scenes like really take me out of the
No, those scenes
movie.
are
I
so
really don't
bad.
like
Those scenes
them.
are, what are we doing? Get Skeet Ulrich out of the damn studio. Why is he still here? I
Yeah,
love him in Scream 1. He is
yeah,
way too old to be in the mirror of the ghost face like shrine
yeah,
talking to Sam. I don't need it. I don't want it. Um yeah, I think it's weird because it's like I don't know where they're going with this. I don't know what's their plan. It Nothing has kind of come out of this yet. Um, right now, I think it's interesting. I don't think it's good or bad. It's not really a positive or negative for me, but I don't know if it's going to end up being a positive. It's kind of where I'm at. I feel like they're going down
yeah,
a sketchy path that probably won't pay off. I think it'd be interesting if it did pay off, and obviously, if it does pay off, then all of this would be a positive or like.
yeah.
Okay. But it's like it's a scary kind of. I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know if I like
Yeah,
this.
it just feels a
Um,
bit strange to me, and it's very like I don't know why. Maybe it feels strange to me because of this, but there's an arc in the show Riverdale
okay.
where one of the character it's just
No.
like you know how corny Riverdale is. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you've seen the clips of the corny writing, and there's just one really corny moment where like serial killers are involved, and like the main character, she's like well, I think my dad passed the serial killer gene on to me, and like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and this just reminds me of that, like this like weird like
yeah,
dad passing down like being a serial killer and like getting visions of your dad. I don't know.
yeah.
It's just like I think
Yeah,
Riverdale makes
so
it makes it.
I think the idea of Sam being this sort of anti-Sydney is a interesting and a good idea because I think the fact that you have this scene post like this frat party where she pushes this people and there's these people and they don't like her and they're starting rumors about her online. There's Reddit threads that are brought up that are
Yeah,
like Sam is actually Ghostface. I think the fact that Sydney was basically like this hero, and obviously people like were like, "Oh, she's weird," but like there was like it was never the point of like, "Oh, we all think Sydney did it." It was like the point of like, "Oh, she's been through so much. She's like the hero. She's like this legend, like iconic hero of Woodsboro." But Sam is treated kind of like crap, and Sam is like everyone's like, "Oh, Sam is Billy Loomis's daughter. She obviously had something to do with this. Like, she is not innocent. Everyone thinks that she orchestrated those kills." So I think that on itself is an interesting way to add freshness and new like things to the character. I think some of the stuff they're doing with Billy like saying weird shit to her and like a reflection,
yeah,
that's a little much and I don't love where they're taking
yeah,
it there. But I think the idea of her having like a negative public reception is a good thing. I like that. I'm not
mhm,
big on the whole Billy like in her dreams
yeah,
thing. I think I'd be interesting if they make her turn and she's a Ghostface next thing. They have to handle it well though. It can't be half baked, and I'm worried that they'll do that and it will turn out it'll be a kind of a flop because I've not been a but the biggest issue so far with the radio silences first two is that the killer's reveals and motives have been lackluster. And I think if
Yeah.
they do this, if they choose to make Sam the killer, that is a big move, and you have to pull it off. You can't do something
Yeah.
like that and like half-ass it and like have a weak motive or have the reveal be weak. You have to make that work. So that is my biggest like kind of concern there is they're going to make Sam a killer or they're going to do something like that and it's going to be weak. And I
Yeah.
think there's a way you can pull it off. It is kind of like it's kind of like a Jill Roberts thing from Scream 4 in a way of like the final girl becomes the ghost face. I just
Yeah.
think they have to pull it off, and I'm worried that they won't. But I think overall in the movies right now, what they're doing with it, it's like half and half for me. I think there's some good ideas being thrown around. There's also some stuff I'm like, I really don't care about this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I feel
I'm
about
probably
Sam.
on board with that. Like that's
Yeah,
probably
I
where
kind of
I
feel that's overall how I feel about Sam's character is because she is the first build. She is kind of their necessarily lead character, and it's like I'm not. She's like I like her more than 6. I'm not sold with her, but I'm interested.
It does seem like this movie they were trying to push that they're moving in Jenna Ortega's direction because obviously
Yeah,
they bring in her love interest. Like she talks about like it's my time in college. Like it's like,
yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like they moved to college, but she's the one in college, so it is kind of like they're trying to suggest
That
that she's going to be the
what's
main
is
character moving
I
forward.
think they're in an interesting thing because Jenna Ortega is obviously the biggest name now of this
Yeah,
cast, and it's an interesting thing where they had Sam as the lead there, and they have Tara as the little sister, and now Tara is a bigger name outside of movies than Sam is. And people
which they didn't like.
they did that
Obviously, they couldn't have predicted when they were making Scream 5 that Jenna Ortega was going to end
yeah.
up being the biggest
So
star on the planet next year.
it's an interesting kind of predicament they're in because a lot of people are just going to see Scream 6 because they love Jenna Ortega. And so
Yeah,
obviously making the movie in mind, you want to there's going to be more focus on Jenna Ortega. I think Jenna Ortega is really great in 6. I love her character. It's like this weird two main character situation where
yeah.
it's like I don't know what they're gonna do with that. Um it's like, do you because it feels like they're building to this like Sam, Ghostface, Tara, Final Girl, like sister thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but you gotta pull it, like you have to pull it off. Like if you're gonna do it, don't you don't screw it up.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I do think it would be interesting if they just go completely away from that route.
Yeah,
Like
it's almost but
I
like
probably would just like it more
yeah.
if the sisters just stay together and that there's no
Yeah,
like
there's like a
twist
little
on it. They're
harmony.
just
Yeah. It,
they're just sisters. And
I
like you know what
mean,
I mean?
I hope you have some. I mean, there's obviously tons of ways to go. I think they are pointing at it, so it is something you kind of have to
Yeah.
bring up. But it's also like this is Scream. They point at a million things, so they could
Yeah.
totally flip it. Like they've been pointing at Stu's return. They mentioned Stu's return in this movie. They're gonna point at a billion things. It's just kind of which one will actually be true and what 17 other things are gonna be false.
Yeah.
But this has kind of been a build-up thing for 2 movies. So it's like, okay, something is gonna come out of this. Like Sam's either going to completely like cut the Billy side off of her or completely go crazy. Like there's not gonna be like nothing is
Yeah.
gonna not happen. Like it's gonna be something happens. There is a moment in 6 at the end where Sam does wear the ghost face costume to
Yeah.
to kill I think the cop, right?
Yeah.
So like it's like they're teasing it, and it's like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I'm excited to see where they go. I am nervous because they're playing with a lot of messy stuff.
Yeah. No,
They're
we'll see
hinting
what
at a
happens. But to
lot
be
of
fair, it's like this is at the end of the day, this is a good movie, so we know they have the ability to make
yeah.
more.
No, I'm so that's the thing I kind of mentioned earlier. Is like this movie is a big step up, and I'm way more excited for the future
Yeah.
from this movie.
Is there any other dislikes that you want to mention, or are we all
Yeah, I
wrapped up?
mean, we kind
Number
of
6?
we brought a lot of the dislikes up, like just kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think overall I really like this movie. I think there's just some key stuff to kind of point out that it's not perfect, but I like the direction they're kind of taking with this franchise.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm excited for 8.
Yeah. Or 7, but yeah. 7 and 8.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Seven. I'm
Hopefully,
excited for 7.
yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully we get more
yeah,
than one. I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Hopefully we get. Honestly, it's and I mentioned this in my review. It's quite shocking, especially in the modern day, for me to say that I just don't want a franchise to stop. But I kind of just really, you could give me as many
yeah.
Scream movies as you want, and I'm gonna sign up for them every time.
I
Because
think
there's just like there's 6 for 6 as far as I'm concerned. Like they've made 6 movies that I like.
yeah. So I think
So,
Scream is kind of the perfect um franchise like template, and I think the
yeah,
way they operate is like off this template that I think is so effective. Where other franchises, it's like there's no really formula where they just kind of are making like new things, and I think within the template and the formula that Scream has, the movies are always going to be somewhat entertaining to the point of like they can just keep making these and I'll show up.
yeah.
And especially with this one being so good, I'm excited for the future again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Before we go on to 65, you want to do a quick reveal of our Scream rankings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll go first. So from 6 to 1, I have Scream 3 in last place, which by the way, like I said before, keep in mind,
Six or
we
six.
yeah, we like all these movies. But yeah, Scream 3 is last for me, then Scream 5, then as of right now, these are the two that are like contentious. But in fourth place, I have Scream 2, and then in third place, I have Scream 6. Those two could flip flop. We'll see when I have some more time to sit on it. And then Scream 4 is second, and like I mentioned before, like Scream 1
Yeah.
is obviously my number one.
Yeah. So we're kind of like very similar in areas. I think like we basically just have two movies that are like flipped, but they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
So I have Scream 5 in last, then Scream 3,
Mhm.
and then Scream 6, and then 2, and then 4, and
4
then
and
1.
1. Yeah.
So we have 2 and 6 flop, and then 3 and 5 flop. But it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Pretty similar areas
yeah,
for
yeah,
them. Yeah. So we have similar thoughts. Yeah. Scream rocks.
yeah.
And what a perfect time to transition to a movie that does not rock. Let's talk about 65. We can start with ratings once again. We probably will not get into as detailed or deep of a discussion about 65 as we did with Scream 6. We can just go over this quickly because I don't really think this movie warrants too much conversation. But yeah, I gave it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it a 1.5 out of 5, I guess. It's
Yeah.
almost like I almost thought about dropping it down recently. It's almost, I don't know, because we talk about like there's not a lot to talk about. It's almost a movie like there's just nothing to really say
Yeah,
because
exactly.
nothing really happens.
Yeah, that's
Um,
my the reason why I didn't even write down a list of likes and dislikes is
is
because I
this
think my biggest takeaway from this
the
movie is that it's just one of the most plain movies I've ever seen. Like
yeah.
there's not really any major dislikes for me. There's just really nothing that I enjoy about it. It's just so like painfully average, and I think the concept of the movie makes it so that it being painfully average is nowhere near enough because I don't want to see a dinosaur movie starring Adam Driver that is
Yeah.
average. Like that if that's the sales pitch for a movie, I'm expecting it to be good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna drop it. Um,
Live on the podcast,
yeah. Well, I was just thinking
we're
because
getting a rating
I think
drop.
Infinity Pool is a little better. I So yeah, it was a movie that I was like, I think the trailer came out like more recently than you would think, like maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't that far like long ago where like we got this trailer and this news drop and it was, oh, 65, this movie's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And it was Adam Driver, produced by Sam Raimi, and there's dinosaurs. And it gave me kind of flashes of M. Night Shyamalan's After Earth, which is a movie I really
Yeah.
like. And we joke. There was a lot of jokes online. It's like Before Earth. Um, and
Yeah.
it's funny because After Earth has like a 1.7 on Letterboxd. A lot of people don't like it, but people are like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of reviews from on 65, and it's like maybe I was too harsh on After Earth, which I think is really funny. But yeah, again, it's like I was excited about this. It's one of the most disappointing like movie experiences ever for me because it was
Yeah.
like I just hope I have fun with this movie, and I'll give it like a high rating because like I think this is a fun concept. I like Adam Driver. I think this is it's just a fun movie. It's called 65. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, by the way that they introduced the movie is so funny
so bad.
when they put the 65 title card up and then they like
Yeah.
they explain that the movie is set back then. I'm like, bro, we know. Like
Yeah.
we know
But
we know the history of the earth.
it's just like the most like I don't know. It's the most movie that does nothing kind of movie ever. I think there's just a kind of fundamental issues with it
Yeah.
that were never going to work. You have Adam Driver and you have this little kid that he finds in like this pod thing, and
Yeah.
then they don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
Um, and when I mean, you're I mean, you have After Earth as kind of a comparison here, but the whole After Earth kind of thing is a lot of dialogue between these because it's two characters on
Yeah.
like a thing in a world, and there's crazy animals and stuff. I think the best part about After Earth, and I was talking to some people about it. After Earth is a very emotional core, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
great dialogue bits between the two. In 65, you have Adam Driver saying like talking to himself a little, and then he'll
Yeah.
like spout like random words at this little
Yeah.
girl, and she can't
She's just like,
understand him,
yeah.
and it
There's
really
really no
ruins.
emotion.
There's no like flow between the
And
two.
it's funny
Um,
because after the movie ended too, like when I left the theater, my friend was like, why did all of his equipment survive, but his like thing to translate languages
yeah.
didn't?
It's like
It
why
is a weird
I
decision. Like
think
you could
if
have just had them talk to each
yeah,
other.
I think you if you had I think you just to make this movie better already, like one, like it's the easiest thing that you could do here is just have his translator survive,
Yeah,
have them be able to talk to each other, and I think it's
yeah.
instantly a better movie.
And the thing
I
is,
don't think it's a great movie, but
yeah,
obviously I think it is a better one because you're just watching Adam Driver walk and this girl walk around this like I watched there was something a video about it, but they're in Louisiana like in swamps. So
yeah,
you're just watching him kind of walk around this swamp, not talking, and there's just like
yeah. He just
nothing.
grunts a lot and like makes
Yeah.
a lot of noises.
So and I mean like it's like if you're it's to you're already putting yourself in a hard position when you're
Yeah,
making your main two you have two characters. That's already like a tough thing to do. Two
yeah.
characters. So if you have two characters, you have to either have to have a lot of dialogue or you have to like know what you're doing behind the camera because I guess you could another movie you could kind of relate this to is Jerry from 2002, which you have two characters in a desert and they're walking and
Yeah.
they don't say a lot in that movie. There's not a lot of dialogue in the movie. You know why? Because they're tired from walking and they don't say a lot. But the camera is utilized with long takes and there's so much like what they say is very important. It's not the amount of stuff they say, it's what they say. And I think there's the camera isn't utilized here. It's very like it's the most generic,
Yeah, it's very
boring
plain, like,
use of
direction,
camera
like, there's
ever.
not really
And
any
what they're
interesting decisions made.
nothing they're saying is relatively important or profound.
Yeah,
So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot because I think them not being able to talk to each other is an idea that can be pulled off by someone like is a like very good at their craft. I think
yeah,
if you're not that great, if you're a kind of I'm not gonna say below average, but like you're an average filmmaker, I think them talking would ultimately boost this film. I think
yeah,
like it
because
could
it
be
could
it's
like,
just
there's a
it makes it more of a challenge, and they did not like reach this like they did not succeed
yeah.
in this challenge.
Yeah, because there's like this is the thing I mentioned to my friend after I watched the movie that I think kind of captures the lack of emotion for me and the reason why the lack of dialogue is so troubling. Like there's this big emotional high at the end toward the end of the movie in the final act that is supposed to be the biggest emotional high of the movie, I should say, when they get to where they're supposed to go and she finds out that her family didn't survive.
Mhm.
But the thing is, because she can't actually talk at all during the
There's
movie,
no,
you don't know anything about her family. Like the only thing
yeah,
you know is that she draws these little stick figures of like her parents, and it's like, okay, but you don't know anything about them or any of that. Like you know Adam Driver's relationship with his family because there's a scene in the beginning that shows it, and
yeah,
then there's all of these like things with his daughter and
yeah,
like the little like the all the pictures he has and like video clips of her or whatever, but you don't get that with her. So it's like, and I get that
yeah.
like you technically could feel emotional just because of like what it sets as a precedent. Like, yeah, of course, nobody wants their fucking parents to die in a plane crash or whatever, but like,
Yeah.
or
And
spaceship crash.
she kind of
But
gets over it like really quickly.
yeah, but it's just like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's I think if she was able to talk and
Yeah.
develop this relationship with Adam Driver, and then they could through the dialogue, you could draw some parallels
Because
between his
I
relationship with his
yeah,
daughter and what's going on with her. It would be significantly more interesting.
that's the biggest thing for me is overall, I think there are good ideas, and that's why I was excited for this movie because I think there's
Yeah,
good ideas, and this is a good concept, and this is a fun concept. And Adam Driver is a great act, like one of the best actors working today. So I
yeah,
think him doing this kind of weird sci-fi movie is awesome, and that's why like it's so disappointing to me because I think stuff like this is just like bad like concept stuff because I think the idea of okay, hey, I've saved you, right?
mhm,
And your parents are dead and I'm telling you that your parents are up here and we're going on this whole journey. And I think in a better movie, you don't even have to have too much dialogue. Or again, when I say with like the Jerry thing, you have to have just little dialogue. Like it's just there's the fact that none of this dialogue makes any sense because none of the characters understand each other. It's just like the dialogue is nothingness because none of the characters are getting information across to each other. Because the girl will talk in her language and Adam Driver will say stuff in English because he just speaks English. Um, right? But none of them are understanding each other. So the dialogue doesn't matter.
yeah,
So I think you could have this whole situation where he lies to her about their parents, and then you have her say, like, speak English because they have the translator, and she would tell stories about her parents and she would talk about her parents
yeah,
and you would get these emotional kind of moments between them two when they're sharing like
yeah,
anecdotes and they're telling stories and then when you would get this emotional third act moment where she figures out that her parents are dead and then you would get this whole like kind of argument or like she like would break out because she learns that her parents are dead but you don't get that because she can't talk so like all of these
yeah,
like emotional, like important story beats are just cut out because you can't talk.
yeah,
Um, it, yeah, there's just so much where it's like it. It's the movie of like missed execution,
yeah, yeah,
almost,
absolutely.
and it's really disappointing.
Yeah. And on that subject, like the only other thing that I really want to mention, because this is the thing that I didn't even make a review for this movie because I was like, I just don't feel like doing that. I made a video specifically about how this movie is just kind of like another letdown for me because I think that dinosaurs are just like one of the coolest things that you can make movies about. Like it's
Yeah,
such a toss up, like a free like just you're gonna make a good movie if you can take this concept and make it interesting because I mean most people think dinosaurs are cool, right? Like most people see dinosaurs and they're like, oh, that's a cool thing. And there's really only ever been one like major movie to execute that well,
yeah.
Jurassic Park, of course. And like it's just like how do we not have just like a surplus of cool dinosaur movies? Like how do
That's
people consistently
well,
make
well,
movies about dinosaurs that are just like pretty boring? Like it's like
yeah. Well, you said you threw the word cool in there, and then mainly it was I kind of went to an issue in my head is all the dinosaurs are kind of boring.
yeah,
There's like
yeah,
two or three different types of dinosaurs like thrown around there maybe.
mhm.
Like at the end there, I see you feel like it feels like it's like this wave boss in like a video game where the same guy just keeps coming. Like there's just like
Yeah.
the same
That's
type of
so true.
dinosaur that just keeps coming after Adam Driver, and it's like geez, like there's just no ounce of creativity added in this movie.
Yeah,
I think premise wise, you have Adam Driver, you have like a reasonably sized budget. There's
yeah,
just 0 ounce of like filmmaking or just like story creativity added to the movie. So it
Yeah.
ultimately is just very plain and boring. It's like a short movie. It's like an hour and a half. It's a boring movie. Like it's like
And
when is this gonna end kind of thing. It's like
the other thing is going along with the dinosaur thing because now I'm only just thinking about this now, but I
yeah,
think obviously I mentioned Jurassic Park, and one of the things that I love so much about that movie is how it kind of captures the like wonder and fascination that we have for these things. Because like if
yeah,
you're somebody who is interested in the subject of dinosaurs and finds that stuff fascinating the way that I do, it is this really like, beautiful grand thing to think about. And like this idea in Jurassic Park of like bringing them back to life so that like we can witness them is this really cool concept. And then when you think of 65, he lands on this planet and he is unaware that dinosaurs are a thing. You know what I mean? Like he
yeah.
has never been informed that dinosaurs are a thing. And there's no
He does
like
not give a shit.
wonder, there's no like shock. He's just like sees them as
I
any
will
other
say,
animal.
the girl is interested, but he is
Yeah.
like, don't mess with those things. You're gonna
Yeah, but
die.
there's really like no moments where it just like makes you there's just no world building. And I get that it's a short movie and they're trying to like keep it like this fast paced thing, but it's like I want you to build up the world because, like you said, that the dinosaurs are fairly uninteresting with the way that they're presented, and they would be more interesting if you build this world up of like what the setting that they're in is. And I just don't think that they do that, and that makes me just a little bit sad, and it reminds me of that TikTok sound that's going around right now, the weird lack of respect for the sanctity of life,
Yeah,
because
you
there's
should
just
make
like
that video. Uh,
there's no appreciation for how cool dinosaurs are in this movie, and that is to me,
yeah,
just something that you have to cross off the list when you make a dinosaur movie. Just make sure that you prove to the not prove to the audience, everybody knows dinosaurs are cool, but make sure you show the audience that they are cool. Like, because it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
yeah, I don't know, it's a small thing, but it does make the movie a big letdown for me, because it's just like I don't want to see more generic dinosaur movies. Like, and I mentioned that in
yeah.
my video, where it's like every time I want dinosaur content, I'm either rewatching Jurassic Park or I'm watching a documentary. And I don't want to watch a bunch of documentaries. Like, I mean, I do. I love watching them, but yeah, I don't know. Just
Yeah.
just make dinosaur movies that are interesting.
I will say, I think the one like scene that stands out for me that I think is a lot of fun, and I was like, I want more of this. Is there's this great scene. I don't even know why Adam Driver is in the tree, right? But he's in this tree, and he falls out of the tree and like dislocates his arm, and then there you see like dinosaurs come up. So he's ramming his arm into this tree to undislocate it, and the dinosaurs are coming, and he keeps just ramming into the tree. And then it gets to the point where they're about to come, and like the girl is like stepping on his arm, and then she steps in it, pops it back. He picks the gun out and he shoots him. That scene is like the best scene of the movie, and it's like, oh, that was actually like interesting. That was a cool like idea.
If it
And
was
then
90 minutes of that, you'd have a good movie.
yeah, it's like that scene was like, this is like a weird, like, okay, he falls into a tree, arm dislocated, he's like ramming into the and it's like, what just happened there? And then it just goes back to like the boring. I like that was the best idea maybe of the movie, was to have this like it's a really cool action idea. Um
Yeah.
like set piece, like kind of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But that scene stood out to me, and everything else kind of was like, oh, okay. I've seen
Yeah.
this before. This is generic, TV
Yeah.
movie kind of thing.
Yeah. There's really
Yes.
nothing else I want to say. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
if
no,
there's
that was
anything
kind
else
of
to
that
talk
was the
about,
one like
but
scene where I was like, I want to talk about this because that's kind of where I was left with like, oh, that was cool. Like that scene was like, oh shit. But everything
yeah.
else, yeah, didn't really leave an impression on me.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Driver's good in it, obviously. I mean, I think everybody's pretty good at acting in it, I guess, but it's just
Yeah,
not
all
like
like
anything.
four characters.
Yeah, it's not anything I really care about, because it's just, yeah, it's just
Even it's
plain.
like yeah, it's like they're good in it, but it's like what they're given to work with
It's
doesn't
not,
allow them
yeah,
to be really great in it or necessarily interesting in it. Like they're not doing necessarily they're not bad in it. It's just they're not doing anything worthwhile.
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. If we don't have anything else to say, I guess we
Yay.
can call it on 65, and I will be back after the Oscars to talk about the Oscars very quickly before the end of the episode. So yeah, we'll we'll talk a little bit more after the Oscars. All right, hello everyone. I am back on my own. Owen is not able to show up for this part. The Oscars just ended like literally 10 minutes ago. So I'm just gonna go over pretty much every winner really quickly. I'm gonna keep this short because I'm here by myself and it feels weird like talking on the podcast alone. But yeah, so I'll start with best picture, obviously. Everything Everywhere All at Once won best picture. It was pretty expected. No surprises there. Really no surprises in the entire show. Like there was like technically kind of things where it was like it could go either way, but nothing that really was too shocking the entire time. And yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once, obviously deserving of Best Picture. We're totally cool with that. And then again, it won for Best Director. The Daniels won Best Director. Also pretty expected at this point. Brendan Fraser won for Best Actor. That was one of the closer ones. I predicted that it would be Austin Butler in my personal predictions. That didn't end up happening. Best Actress, Michelle Yeoh won. Again, pretty close race between her and Kate Blanchett. Um, for Best Supporting Actor, Ke Huy Quan won. That was the biggest lock of the night, of course. No surprises there at all, really. Best Supporting Actress, Jamie Lee Curtis won. That one was a bit more on the shocking side. It was kind of anticipated, but that was a tight race. It could have gone a couple different ways, and at least me personally, not who I would have picked to win. I would have loved to have seen it be Kerry Condon, but it is what it is. Jamie Lee Curtis is obviously awesome and I love her, and it is kind of feel like a legacy award, but that's not necessarily like the worst thing in the world. I mean, she deserves to have an Oscar under her belt. For the screenplays, the Daniels won Best Original Screenplay for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Women Talking won Best Adapted Screenplay. Those were both pretty expected. I really wanted to see Banshees win Best Original Screenplay. I knew it was going to underperform because most of the categories it could win in, it was competing with Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I knew was obviously going to get a ton of Oscars. And yeah, it's just upsetting because Banshees didn't get any Oscars at all, which is just really sad. It's my favorite of the Best Picture nominees. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it is absolutely deserving of an Oscar nomination, and sadly that didn't happen. Nothing you can do about that. But yeah, um, those are the screenplay winners. Best animated feature, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won. Again, super anticipated. Like everybody kind of knew that's where it was going to go. And yeah, it's my favorite of the nominees for best animated feature, so I'm not upset about that. Best international film, All Quiet on the Western Front won, of course, which is another going to be another hot topic of the Oscars because it pulled in a number of awards. I think it won 4 or 5 of them, if I'm not mistaken. At least 4, but it might have been 5. So yeah, that's going to be a hot topic, and obviously all those nominations kind of guaranteed that it would win Best International Feature. I don't think it's my favorite of the international feature nominees, although I rank all of these kind of very closely. Um, Best Documentary Feature, Navalny won. I haven't watched any of these yet. I'm planning on watching a couple of them. I wasn't planning on watching Navalny out of these, but since it won, I guess I'll give it a chance. Best Film Editing, the winner was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Once again, yeah, not really too much of a shock. Although that could have gone a number of different ways. I feel like Top Gun Maverick and Elvis both had a chance there, but of course it goes to the Best Picture winner. Best Production Design. This one was a little bit more on the shocking side. All Quiet. Some of its technical wins were a little bit shocking just because it was a tight race between it and a couple other movies. Usually, like in production design, it was a pretty tight race between that and Babylon. I think Babylon was actually the betting favorite. But yeah, All Quiet took that one, and then Best Sound went to Top Gun Maverick. That one's not really surprising. Best visual effects, again, not very surprising. It went to Avatar: The Way of Water. That was like one of the more guaranteed locks. Like obviously, Key for Everything Everywhere All at Once was the biggest lock of the night, but that one was definitely up there. Best cinematography goes to All Quiet on the Western Front, another technical award, another award that was probably pretty guaranteed, although there was like other movies in the conversation. I guess Elvis could have been in the conversation. I would have liked it to be Tar, but it is what it is. I still have to watch Bardo as well. Um, Best music original song went to RRR, which is again pretty expected. I don't really like I don't know. They did all the live performances and even just the energy of the performances. Like RRR was clearly the most energetic, like the most exciting and just like the best song out of them really. But again, some of them aren't supposed to be energetic songs, but RRR was just clearly like the best of the bunch for me. For original score, this was one that I was pretty upset over. All Quiet on the Western Front won this one. I'm not like super upset, but I did want it to be Babylon. I know that the Babylon Hive online is not going to be very happy about Babylon not getting any awards and losing both of its two pretty much most probable awards to All Quiet on the Western Front. For best costume design, Black Panther Wakanda Forever won, which is another one that is not like super shocking. That one could have gone a couple different ways. But yeah, it ended up going to Black Panther Wakanda Forever. For best makeup and hairstyling, the Whale one, which is I think one of the kind of worst wins of the night. I've been pretty public about how I don't like the Whale that much. I've said it a number of times. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. But yeah, it's not very good, and I don't think it's deserving of a best makeup and hairstyling win. I feel like this could have gone. I predicted it to go to Elvis, which is also like not really who I wanted to win, but it at least would have been a little bit better. Then the shorts live action short film winner was Irish Goodbye. That was my prediction. But I haven't seen all the live action shorts, so I can't say too much about them. Although I'm very happy it wasn't Night Ride because that movie was very bad. Best animated short film was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I haven't watched this one, but I watched a couple of the others, and I heard that this one definitely was not like deserving compared to the others. I don't know. I'm taking other people's word for it, so I can't say much about it. But I did like the other ones I watched like a good amount. I thought Ice Merchants was very good, and I also thought My Year of Dicks was very good. So I would have liked to see one of those two win. And finally, best documentary short, again a category that I haven't seen anything from, but The Elephant Whisperers was the best of the bunch there, according to the Academy, and that is the last winner. Yeah, I don't know, just like overall takeaway stuff from the Oscars. We got to stop letting Jimmy Kimmel host. He's just not very funny. Yeah, there was nothing. There was no real big surprises. Things kind of went as planned. Ki Hui Kwan gave a speech that made me like ugly cry. That was probably the highlight of the night, I would say. But there was a lot of parts that really dragged, I guess, which is expected. Like it dragged on past the runtime, of course, as it always does. And you know what to expect from these award shows. You know what to expect from the Oscars. So nothing really too surprising. Not really the most exciting. There was some stuff in there that was definitely annoying. Like I mentioned the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I didn't really love that they just kept referring to Will Smith's slap from last year. It's just an overused joke. Like obviously we knew they were going to make at least one joke, but they did it a number of times and it just ended up getting dry. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was a fine Oscars. Like there's no real surprises, so there's nothing to be too upset about. But yeah, real big winners are Everything Everywhere All at Once and All Quiet on the Western Front, and yeah, not not a lot of other winners outside of that. And just one final thing, of course, if anybody is interested, in our older episode where we did our Oscars predictions, keep in mind these predictions happened like well before the actual like time to make predictions. I made my own separate video of predictions just earlier today before the Oscars, and I did much better in those predictions, of course, because I had the knowledge that I have now that we didn't have when we recorded the podcast episode. We did it way too far ahead, so the predictions were pretty much meaningless. But we did them anyway because we wanted to have fun. We wanted to make some predictions after the nominees were announced. So to go over that, the winner of those predictions was me, which I'm I'm going to take pride in. I'm going to talk shit to Owen and Doug about, even though like I said, it's meaningless. But yeah, I got 13 of them right, which again is such an abysmal number but of course it's like we didn't know anything, but I got 13 right. Doug and Owen both tied with 10 right out of the 23 total nominees. So yeah, that's how our predictions went. And as for my personal predictions that I made today, if anybody's interested, at least, I got 17 of those right, which is clearly a much better number, although still kind of not the best I could do. But it is what it is. Yeah, overall, okay, Oscars. Don't have much else to say. Don't want to drag this on. So I will see you along with my other co hosts, hopefully, next week.